Hello everyone. Today I am going to discuss about anti-anginal agents lecture 1. Here is a series of lecture for anti-anginal agents. In today's lecture I am going to discuss about introduction to anti-anginal agents, and it includes introduction about angina pectoris and classification of anti-anginal agents. Now first of all, what is anti-anginal agents? The drugs that relieve the symptoms of angina pectoris are known as anti-anginal drugs. Anti-anginal drugs are used for the management of disease condition angina pectoris. Anti-anginal agents act by increasing blood flow, either by increasing oxygen supply or by decreasing oxygen demand by the myocardium, and this condition is also known as the myocardial ischemia. Now what is ischemia? First of all, condition in which an inadequate blood supply to the specific body part or organ will occur, right? So in this specific part of the body or organ will not get the adequate amount of the blood flow or oxygenated blood stream, and this condition occur in specific organ, and that's why it is named with a prefix of that organ and with ischemia. Here myocardial ischemia, that means the inadequate blood flow into the heart muscles. That is the heart muscles or heart. Myocardium, that means heart muscles. So in angina pectoris, what happens? Decreases the oxygen supply or blood flow towards the myocardium. That's why it is known as the myocardial ischemia. Now, before going toward the treatment of angina pectoris or anti-anginal drugs, we should understand about the angina pectoris. What is angina pectoris actually and what happened in this condition? Angina pectoris is a characteristic sudden severe chest pain or heaviness radiating to the neck, jaw, back and arms. Okay. In this condition, what happens? Sudden severe chest pain occur. Right? It is the special characteristic of the angina pectoris. Right? Sudden severe chest pain, as well as heaviness radiating to the neck, jaw, back and arms. Right? It starts with the chest pain and then heaviness occur into the neck, jaw, back and arms. Right? So these all symptoms occur into the angina pectoris. It is a condition of acute cardiac pain that is caused by inadequate blood flow to the myocardium resulting from either plaque occlusions within or spasm of the coronary arteries. Right? This type of condition occur because of the inadequate blood flow to the myocardium. Right? That is the chest pain, heaviness into the neck, jaw, back and arms occur. Why? That is because of the inadequate blood flow to the myocardium. Heart muscles cannot get the adequate amount of the blood or adequate amount of the oxygen supply, right, for the normal functioning. That's why this type of condition may occur. And how or why the heart muscles or myocardium cannot get the adequate amount of the blood or adequate amount of the oxygen? That is because of the plaque occlusion within the blood vessels. That is the one type of thrombus. Plaque occlusions, that means blood clots or thrombus or stenosis occur within the blood vessels that decreases the diameter of the internal diameter of the blood vessels, that's why decreases the passage for the blood flow to the heart or myocardial muscles. That way decreases the heart decreases the blood flow towards the myocardium. Or spasm of the coronary arteries, that is the contraction of the coronary arteries, and that will also lead to the decreases the blood flow or oxygen to the heart, right? Now causes of the angina pectoris, as we discussed that first one is the vasospasm, fixed stenosis or thrombus. Vasospasm, that is the coronary artery contraction, increases the coronary artery contraction, as well as fixed stenosis. That is nothing but the narrowing of the blood vessels. Fixed stenosis, nothing but the narrowing of the blood vessels, and narrowing of the blood vessels occur due to the lesions into the internal wall of the blood vessels. That will lead to the narrowing of the blood vessels. Narrowing of the blood vessels, that is the decrease in diameter, internal diameter of the blood vessels, that will produces the peripheral resistance and decreases the blood flow towards the heart. As well as thrombus, that is nothing but the blood clot. That blood clot, when occur into the blood vessels, then it also restrict the blood flow, right, as per the requirement. That restrict the blood flow towards the heart as per the requirement. That decreases the blood flow, and that's why heart does not meet the adequate requirement of the oxygen as well as blood for the normal functioning. That's why that will lead to the decreased coronary blood flow and ultimately lead to the angina, that is the chest pain. And chest pain is only because of that heart does not work properly due to lack of oxygen and blood. Second reason of angina is that increase in heart rate. By any reason, when heart rate increases as well as increase in contractility of heart muscles, that is the overactivity of the myocardial muscles, right, as well as increase in afterload and preload. Now what is afterload and preload? Afterload is the pressure generated when heart emptying or blood flow from the left ventricle to the aorta occur, right? That is the afterload. That is the contract, or also known as the systole pressure. Preload, it is related to the ventricle filling. It is all about the ventricle filling. Pressure generated into the heart during the filling of the ventricle by blood. Right? So these are the afterload and preload. Afterload is the during the ventricle emptying, and preload, that is the pressure during the ventricle filling. Ventricle filling, that is the right ventricle filled with the blood that it comes from the body, right? And different blood vessels from the body. And afterload is the pressure that is generated during the emptying of the left ventricle into the aorta, and this blood into the aorta then goes throughout the body or spread throughout the body by different blood vessels, right? So these are the afterload and preload are the one type of pressure, and that is related to heart. So increase in heart rate, contractility of the myocardial muscles, as well as increase in afterload and preload, that increases the oxygen consumption, right? This is all are the overactivity of the myocardial muscles. Heart rate, increase in heart rate, that is also overactivity of the myocardial muscles, contractility of the myocardial muscles, and afterload and preload, all are related to myocardial activity. So increase in all over activity of the myocardial muscle increases the oxygen consumption, right? And that will again lead to the angina pectoris, right? So main two reasons are there, or cause of angina pectoris are decrease in coronary blood flow and increases oxygen demand or oxygen consumption by the heart or myocardium. That will lead to the angina. Right? Now, types of angina pectoris. There are three types of angina pectoris: stable angina, unstable angina, and variant angina. See, first, stable angina. The experience of this stable angina is quite variable and is generally defined by the chest pain or felt by the chest pain. The attack of stable angina is predictable. That means one can feel that there may be chances of the angina at that time. Chances of the attack of the angina pectoris at that time. That's why it is known as the predictable angina, or attacks of the stable angina is predictable. It occurs mainly due to physical exertion or mental stress. That means when person doing the physical exercise or mentally stressed, then this type of angina may occur. In both cases, either physical exercise occur or mental exercise occur. It is the condition of physical stress or mental stress. So when person is physically or mentally stressed, then this type of angina may occur. That's why it is known as the angina of effort. Right? So during the working condition of person, either physically or mentally, then and then this type of angina may occur. That's why it is also known as the angina of effort. Right? Then in the term stable angina, two words, angina and stable. Angina indicates that myocardial oxygen demand is exceeding supply. That means heart or myocardial muscles demand the more oxygen than supply of the oxygen. Right? So supply of the oxygen to the myocardial muscle is less and demand of the oxygen by the myocardial muscles increases. This type of condition is known as the angina. Stable indicates reproducible nature of the angina. That means at the different interval of the time, this angina may re-attack. Reproducible, that means re-attack at the different interval of the time duration. Right? It is relieved by rest or acute use of the nitroglycerin. Right? Stable angina can be relieved by rest or acute use of nitroglycerin. Nitroglycerin is one type of anti-anginal drugs which is used for the management of angina pectoris. So in stable angina, nitroglycerin is effective. Then unstable angina. In this unstable angina, anginal symptoms may occur with less cardiac demand, and it is because of previously tolerated activities, that is elicit symptoms of great concern, and it is the angina at rest. That means during the rest, this angina may occur. That's why it is known as the unstable angina, and this is because of the previously tolerated activity, that is physical or mental activity previously done by the person. Then during rest, the symptoms of this unstable angina may occur. That's why it is known as the angina at rest. In this angina, nitroglycerin or rest is less or unresponsive. Right? This angina, unstable angina, is less or unresponsive to nitroglycerin or rest. Right? When comparing with the stable angina, what happened in stable angina? The condition may be relieved by the rest or by acute use of the nitroglycerin. In opposite, in this condition, the condition is less or almost unresponsive to the use of nitroglycerin or rest. That means nitroglycerin or rest may not affect the unstable angina or not help to manage or relieve the unstable angina. And the unstable angina is due to the vasospasm and can happen even in the rest. This is especially because of the vasospasm, that is the blood vessel contraction, and that may happen even in the rest. Stable angina and unstable angina both occur due to the atherosclerotic coronary disease, artery disease, right? In stable angina, atherosclerosis or atherosclerotic coronary artery disease may contribute, but in unstable angina, atherosclerotic coronary artery disease is the important contributing factor, right? And that's why during the atherosclerosis, that means the blockage of the blood vessels due to the formation of the thrombus within blood vessels, right? So unstable angina may also occur at the rest, right? And in this atherosclerosis is the most important contributing factor. That's why nitroglycerin or rest is not effective into the unstable angina. Then variant angina. It is also known as the Prinzmetal angina. It occurs at rest and often in young individuals. It occurs in the early morning hours. It is generally the attack of the variant angina may arise during the early morning hours. It is triggered by alcohol, drinking iced drinks, rapid eye ball movement, sleep, cocaine, nicotine, acetylcholine, and hyperventilation. Right? When person uses this type of agents or use this type of chemicals like alcohol, ice drinks, then cocaine, nicotine or acetylcholine, then this chances of the variant angina is more, right? Then during the rapid eye movement sleep, variant angina may occur, and also during the hyperventilation, variant angina may occur. This is due to the vasospasm and respond to the vasodilators. This variant angina is also due to the vasospasm, that is due to the coronary artery contraction, and this anginal condition may respond to the vasodilators, that is the nitroglycerin or other vasodilators. Calcium channel blockers, beta blockers can be used. And also here atherosclerotic condition contribute to the condition of variant angina. So these are the different three types of angina: stable, unstable and variant angina. Now rationale for treating angina. How can we treat the angina pectoris? So there are two ways: by increasing oxygen delivery or by decreasing oxygen demand, right? By using two ways, angina pectoris can be treated, either by increasing oxygen delivery to the heart or myocardium, and or decreases oxygen demand by the myocardium. And increasing oxygen delivery may be done by using coronary vasodilators or by using anti-thrombotic drugs, right? Coronary vasodilators cause the vasodilation or relaxation of the coronary arteries, and that will lead to the increases the blood flow to the myocardium, right? So automatically increases the oxygen delivery. Anti-thrombotic drugs that breaks the thrombus, that clear the thrombus which produces within the or present within the blood vessels. That's why clearing of the thrombus that will lead to the clear the passage for the blood flow to the myocardium. So that's why increases the blood flow toward the myocardium, and that's why increases the oxygen delivery to the myocardium. Second one is the decreased oxygen demand. That can be also done by the vasodilators and cardiac depressants. Vasodilators cause the relaxation of the myocardium as well as blood vessels. That's why what happened? Relaxation of the blood vessels lead to the decrease in oxygen demand. They are not now overactive, right? They are relaxed. That's why oxygen requirement for the activity of the blood vessels will decrease. Then cardiac depression. Cardiac depressants, that is a drug which causes the depression of the myocardium. Right? In angina, what happened? Overactivity or overcontraction of the myocardial muscles occur. That's why they demand the more oxygen. So cardiac depressants help to decrease the oxygen demand by relaxing the myocardial muscles. That's why oxygen demand by the myocardium will decrease. So by this using these two routes, angina pectoris can be treated. Now see the classification of the anti-anginal drugs. There are different classes available for the anti-anginal drugs. First one is nitrates, second one is the beta blockers, third one is the calcium channel blockers, fourth one is potassium channel openers, and fifth one is miscellaneous agents. And see the example. First one, examples of beta blockers are propranolol, sotalol, atenolol and metoprolol, etc. Right? Which we have already discussed into the antihypertensive agents. Calcium channel blockers also we have already discussed into the antihypertensive agents. See examples: nifedipine, amlodipine, verapamil and diltiazem. Potassium channel openers include nicorandil. Nicorandil is used as a potassium channel openers to dilate the blood vessels. Then examples of nitrates are nitroglycerin, amyl nitrite, pentaerythritol, tetranitrate and isosorbide dinitrite. Right? These are the nitrates which can be again classified into short acting and long acting. Right? Next one, miscellaneous. Example is dipyridamole. Dipyridamole is used as an anti-anginal agents. Now see the structures of the anti-anginal drug. First class is the nitrates, include nitroglycerin. This nitroglycerin is also known as the glyceryl trinitrate. Same structure here, 3 carbon which is attached to the oxygen is present. That is the structure of glycerin. Normally CH2OH, CHOH and CH2OH. Right? That is the glycerin. CH2OH. That is the glycerin. Right? In glycerin, one hydrogen from the 3-hydroxyl group is replaced with the nitrite group. Right? NO2, NO2, NO2 group. That's why it is also known as the glyceryl trinitrate. Right? Next one is amyl nitrite. In amyl nitrite, amyl group is attached with the simply nitrite group, NO2 group. Amyl group is nothing but the pentyl group. Here, isopentyl group is present. Right? So, amyl nitrite. Then, pentaerythritol tetranitrate. Tetranitrate, that means 4 nitrate groups are present. 4 nitrate groups are present. NO3 nitrate, that means NO3 group. Right here. So see, in pentaerythritol, this one is structure of pentaerythritol to which 4 nitrate groups are attached. Right? In isosorbide dinitrite, here to the structure of isosorbide. In isosorbide here, OH and OH groups on both sides is present. Right? In both OH group, hydrogen is replaced with the nitrite group, NO2 group. Right? That's why it is the isosorbide nitrite, dinitrite. Right? Dinitrite means 2 nitrite groups are present. Next one is beta blockers. Beta blockers we already discussed into antihypertensive agents. See example propranolol, in which naphthalene structure is present with side chain. Then that is the ether hydroxyamine side chain. Right? In side chain, one ether oxygen, one OH group and amine groups are present. Second one is atenolol, third one is timolol, and fourth one is metoprolol. Right? So these all are the beta blockers. Propranolol is non-selective and remaining are the selective beta blockers. Next one is calcium channel blockers, nifedipine, amlodipine, verapamil and diltiazem. Nifedipine and amlodipine are the 1,4-dihydropyridine derivatives. See in structure, in both structure 1,4-dihydropyridine structure is present. This one is pyridine ring, right, which is hydrogenated, right, that's why dihydropyridine ring. One double bond is saturated with the help of hydrogenation by the addition of hydrogen. That's why it is known as the dihydropyridine derivatives. Next, verapamil, it is the dialkyl amine derivative. Here, amine group is attached with two different substituent, right? That's why it is known as the dialkyl amine derivatives. Diltiazem is the benzothiazepine derivative in which benzothiazepine ring is present. Right? Thiazepine ring, a 7-member ring with nitrogen atom, that is azepine. In azepine ring, again one sulfur atom is present, that's why it is thiazepine ring. And this thiazepine ring is directly fused with the benzene ring, that's why benzothiazepine derivatives. Then potassium channel opener is nicorandine, which is pyridine derivative in which pyridine heterocyclic ring is present, and second important structure is the nitrite group and one amide function is present in side chain. Then miscellaneous agent include dipyridamole. In this structure, see, two pyrimidine rings are attached with each other, directly fused with each other, and on each pyrimidine ring same substituents are present. See here one piperidine ring, that is the fully saturated piperidine ring. Pyridine ring is known as the piperidine ring, right? Two piperidine ring is present or saturated pyridine rings are present on each pyrimidine ring. Pyrimidine ring is 6-membered ring with 2 nitrogen atom at 1,3 position, right? So on each pyrimidine ring, one saturated pyridine ring is attached and second one is amino group. Substituted amino group is present, and on amino group hydroxyethyl groups are present. 2 hydroxyethyl groups are present on nitrogen, right? So it is the dipyridamole. Thank you.